How can you find equivalent ratios? Think about this question during the lesson. For every 16 basketball players in Crystal County schools, there are 48 soccer players. If the ratio remains constant and there are 64 basketball players, how many soccer players are there? What two quantities are being compared in this problem? How would you write the ratio relationship? The quantities being compared are the number of basketball players and the number of soccer players. You can write the ratio relationship as 16 to 48, 16 to 48, or 16 over 48. Here is one way to solve the problem. You can use the structure in a ratio table to find equivalent ratios. Make a table with equivalent ratios. Remember, multiply both terms of the original ratio by the same number to find an equivalent ratio. There are 192 soccer players when there are 64 basketball players. Here is another way. Use multiplication. By what number should you multiply both terms to find an equivalent ratio that compares 64 basketball players to the unknown number of soccer players?
Select your answer.
Multiply both terms by 4. 16 over 48 and 64 over 192 are equivalent ratios. Why does multiplying both terms by the same non-zero number result in an equivalent ratio? Any non-zero number divided by itself is 1, so it is like multiplying by one whole. Multiplying by 1 does not change the value of the ratio. There are 192 soccer players when there are 64 basketball players. Now you know how to find equivalent ratios.
If you extend the table, how would you find the next ratio of basketball players to soccer players?
As you can see, each time they're progressing through the ratios, they're multiplying by the next number in order. So first was 6 times 2 for both 16 and 48, then 16 times 3 times the 16 and 48, and then times 4. So then if we wanted to find the next set of ratios, we would then multiply by 5. That would be the next number we can multiply by. So that's all you had to write. It did not ask us to solve it. It just wanted to know how we would do it.
Sarah made baskets on some of her shots in a basketball game. If she continues to make baskets at the same rate, how many baskets will Sarah make in her next 6 shots?
One way would be to make a table, which they have shown here for us. They have number of shots she's taken, number of baskets made. So we have 6 shots that she took, and she made 4 out of those 6 shots. Then they continued on the table, dividing by 3 the first time. They divided 18 by 3 to get the 6 number of shots from the 18 that she took and the 12 baskets that she made. So to find the equivalent ratios of 18 and 12, they divided first by 3 to get the 6 over 4, and then divided the 2 to get 9 over 16. So that's one way of solving this. So she would make 4 baskets in her next 6 shots. Another way would be to divide the terms by the same non-zero number. So that just means it can't be 0. So they took 18 and 12 and divided both by 3. And we got 6 over 4, which means again she would make 4 baskets in her next 6 shots.
Rashida uses 8 cups of tomatoes and 3 cups of onions to make salsa. How many cups of onions should Rashida use if she uses only 4 cups of tomatoes?
We need to identify what Rashida is using. So we have the 8 cups of tomatoes and the 3 cups of onions to make the salsa. The question says how many cups of onions should she use if she only uses 4 cups of tomatoes. So again, when you write your ratio, whatever number is mentioned first in the sentence is the number that goes first. So the first number mentioned here is 8 cups of tomatoes. So I'm going to write it as a fraction because remember, ratios can be written in 3 ways. The way I'm choosing is a fraction. So 8 cups of tomato, 3 cups of onions. So it asks how many cups of onions should Rashida use if she uses only 4 cups of tomatoes. Well, I know if I divide, I can get a smaller number. And I need to see they want 4 cups of tomatoes. What do I need to divide by? 8 to get 4 cups. I would have to divide by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 for my numerator of 8 and my denominator of 3. So 3 divided by 2 is going to give me 1.5 actually. If you divide 3 in half, it is 1.5 plus 1.5. So thankfully, this is not the final answer because that's not a usual fraction we see, but it asks how many cups of onions, and this denominator here represents the onions. So the answer would be 1 5/10 or 1.5 onions if she used 4 cups of tomatoes. And that's it.
The circumference of a circle, C, is the distance around the circle. The diameter of a circle, D, is a segment that passes through the center and has both endpoints on the circle. Pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. This ratio is approximately 66 to 21. Which of the following ratios are equivalent to 66 to 21? 22 to 7, 33 to 10, 44 to 14, 88 to 28.
We can make tables of equivalent ratios. So we start with the 66 over 21. That is what they gave us in the problem. Then we divide by 3 and we would get the 22 to 7. Now we have 22 to 7 and we multiply that by 2. We would get 44 over 14. 44 to 14, and then we multiply it by 3, we get 66 over 21, and lastly multiply it by 4, and we get 88 over 28. So the ratio is 22 to 7, 44 to 14, and 88 to 28 are equivalent to 66 and 21. We did not get 33 to 10, so that is not equivalent to any of these ratios.
There are 7,040 yards in 4 miles. Complete the table to show the conversion of 1 mile to yards and 10 miles to yards.
First, I'm going to see my original ratio is, let me just circle it, 4 and 7,040. 4 represents the miles, the 7,040 represents the yards. So they want to know the conversion of 1 to 10 miles to yards. So I know when I am making a number smaller, the only operations that allow me to do that is either dividing or subtracting. We're going to divide here the 4 so that we can get to equal 1. What can we divide 4 by to equal 1? Well, we can divide by 4. So if I divide 4 divided by 4, I get 1. And so I have to do the same thing to the other number. So 7,040 divided by 4 is equal to 1,760, and we've completed that ratio. Now on the other side of 4, we have 10. Well, we know the operations we need to use to increase a number is either multiplying or adding. In this case, we're going to multiply. So what can I do to equal 10? Let's think about that. Without using a calculator, we know that 4 times 2 equals 8, but 4 times 3 equals 12. So there is a number in between there that is going to give me 10. So the quickest way to do it without a calculator is to divide 4 and 10. 4 goes into 10 twice. That equals 8. And then we're going to add a decimal and a 0. Keep dividing. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And then that's going to equal 0. So 4 times 2.5 is going to give me 10. So whatever I do there, I have to do to the other number as well. So 7,040 times 2.5, or 2 5/10, is going to give me 17,600. And now we have completed the table that shows the conversion of the yards and the miles.